Meanwhile, this election is also heightening concerns over cybersecurity. President Trump's campaign website appeared to be hacked Tuesday. The site was briefly taken offline after it was defaced with messages claiming to have damaging information on the president. The alleged hackers linked two cryptocurrency wallets and urged people to send money in exchange for the release of those details. Now, we should note there is no evidence that any classified information was actually accessed. Trump campaign communications director Tim Murtaugh tweeted, "Law enforcement is investigating the attack," adding there was, quote, "no exposure to sensitive data because none of it is actually stored on the site." For more on this, let's bring in CNET senior producer Dan Patterson. Dan, welcome. It's good to see you again. Is it concerning that even at a time of such heightened vigilance over cyber attacks, the president's own campaign website appears to have been easily compromised?
Yeah, hey, good to see you too, Elaine. It is concerning. This is what we call a defacement attack, and like you noted, it didn't appear as though there were large data files extracted. It's kind of a calling card. It says, hey, knock, knock, we can do this to you, and we could probably do it to others. So the Trump team, as well as pretty much every politician in the country, you would hope, would have really good cybersecurity protocols in place by now. It's long past the time where we were naive about these things. We know that every world leader, every politician is under attack all the time from lone wolf hackers, small independent hacking groups, as well as nation states. So yeah, it is really concerning that the Trump team didn't have apparently even really basic cyber defense protocols in place here.
Well, President Trump's comments during the first presidential debate drew a lot of attention to the far-right group, the Proud Boys. But there are networks of other extremists online that may not be as visible in the news or on social media that are certainly active. So what should people know, and how much of a threat do they pose?
So, Elaine, we want to avoid hyperbole and really hyping up or calling too much attention to these groups because we don't want to overstate their potential. At the same time, there are violent extremist groups who are now involved in politics, and we want to flag those and point some of those out. You know, over the summer, Boogaloo Boys, Proud Boys received a lot of media attention, but even just today, BuzzFeed reported a story about a group in the Northeast called Patriot Front that has very effectively used propaganda both for outreach and to disseminate messages, as well as to vet potentially new members. I use a site called the Site Intelligence Group, kind of track and monitor some extremists. There's a really interesting site called the Armed Conflict Locator, an event tracker project. And they have published a PDF that you can find by just searching standing militia groups. And they will list what militia groups are active, how active they are, and potentially how violent they are. I found this a really sobering way to get a very critical look at what is actually happening throughout the country right now.
Well, tech companies are under pressure from activists and lawmakers to take action against the sharing of extremist propaganda online. Are they taking any meaningful action?
Well, just today, like you said, leading up to this segment, Elaine, we saw Mark Zuckerberg, Jack Dorsey, and Sundar Pichai of Facebook, Twitter, and Google, respectively, testify before Congress about Section 230 of the Communication Decency Act. This is a 1996 regulation that means tech publishers are not necessarily liable for the content published on their platforms. And this is kind of a revered regulation throughout the tech industry. It's seen as kind of laying the groundwork for social media and the way the web operates today. It's a really important act for protecting free expression. At the same time, a lot of people say that it's being exploited and twisted in order to disseminate propaganda and other really harmful information. So we don't really have satisfying answers right now, but we do know that this is kind of a critical time where these long-standing regulations are being confronted, sometimes for good reasons, but the consequences of getting it wrong are really high right now.
Well, we've been talking a lot about voters being flooded with disinformation on social media, but the Washington Post reports that in these final days of voting, people are receiving an uptick of suspicious emails and text messages. What's behind that shift?
So we don't know what's behind every suspicious text message or email, but we do know that a lot of this information is either available about you on your public voter registration information, and that a lot of this information we kind of give to campaigns when we engage in campaigns, whether that's going to a rally or signing up for an email list. A lot of that information is bought and sold, and some of it can end up in the wrong hands. So disinformation is the right word. These appear to be coordinated campaigns spreading wrong or misleading information about the election. The real challenge is tracking down which organizations, what we call threat actors, are propagating this disinformation. And because it's so inexpensive and easy to do, it could be any number of groups. So it's just going to take time to learn specifics here.
All right, Dan Patterson for us. Dan, thank you very much.
Great to see you.